Hey guys, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well, Chris.
Awesome.
Going great.
So this is Gary. Is it Chavez or Chavez? Hard C or?
I say Chavez.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time. Sometimes I say Chavez, just do not get people confused. But Chavez or Chavez, doesn't matter. I answer to both.
Okay.
Mom say.
I only ask because I lived in LA for a while.
Yeah.
And like Salvadorians sometimes pronounce things very differently than like, yeah.
I was told, I was stationed in San Antonio. I was told when I say Chavez that I'm pronouncing my last name wrong.
Okay.
Okay. But I still say Chavez.
Sure. So Gary is a game designer, and he's from Cincinnati. Where Ryan are located now, and actually Ryan and Gary have met in the past. And let's just start with that. You guys were talking about that, and then we can even talk about the game you have designed, and then the game Ryan has in the background. Since we're just going to have some Cincinnati fun time tonight.
Awesome, great.
Gary did a documentary for Origins and the Cincinnati playtesting group.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I made a little commercial for us. Little 3-minute spot. Yeah, I had I put that video when we were meeting, at the end every month, and was trying to grow the group. So yeah, that helped to show what the group was about and everything. So now we're meeting at Fireside Pizza, so I got to make a whole new video for us instead of the Rook closed down. That was a great place, but I'm gonna have to change the video. But also I'll have to re-interview everyone and make them say the same thing that they said before because they put it so well. So we'll see.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed the Rook. I was sad when I don't know, was that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago that they closed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but the guy, how can you yell at the guy? Yeah, it's a great place, but the guy wanted to go to Africa and build homes. I mean, what are you going to say? You're ruining my game night. You want to build houses in Africa. You can't yell at the guy. You're kind of like, yeah, okay, well, all right. That sounds good. Best of luck to you.
No, totally. He did it for the best of reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us about your background. How'd you get into game design? How'd you get into board games in general? Just tell us more about that.
Well, I'm a aerospace engineer. I've been 20 years in the Air Force, 10 years active, 10 years reserve. I always had an interest in board games. Started off playing a game called Nuclear War long time ago. But yeah, it's a great game. My cousins were real cutthroat. We moved on from Monopoly and just, we left the take that of Monopoly and just went for the throat with Nuclear War, and always had a great time. Moved on to RPGs, and then I got married, had a family, and the gaming thing went aside for a while. But then they started to grow up, and I started to have a little bit more free time. So I've always thought about designing games, and then I discovered the great playtest group here. I had an idea for a game. I discovered the great playtest group here in Cincy, and went there. And geez, just the great bunch of people, super supportive, willing to share what they know, willing to share their knowledge, and help you where they can. And said, geez, you don't. This is a rare thing, these days where, they're so welcoming, and the whole community, just even outside of Cincinnati, you go to Origins and you go to Protospiel and Unpub, and it's the same thing. A lot of the game design community is very friendly. So I said, well, maybe I need to check this out a little bit more and get more involved in this. And yeah, that's how it got started. So just been making games ever since. I think that was probably about 2016 when I first attended that meeting. Yeah.
So you say games. So you have oh goodness sakes, Saints and Scoundrels there beside you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What other games besides that one? Or
so the first one that I had brought to the group was a game called Battle Cats. It was a kind of a Thundercats. Yeah, remember that, Ryan? Yeah, it was a kind of a Thundercats theme. It was my first game, and it was I called a compound deck building game. So, in a regular deck building game, everyone's building their own individual decks. And I made this mechanic where everyone's building one deck together. And it sounds like a great premise for a co-op, but it's not a co-op. It's a competitive game. You're competing for domination of the deck. And it's a real interesting mechanic, and the group really got into it. And there are certain things that need to be solved. And I really like the game. Brought it to publishers. The thing was, as I got to know game design, and as I got to know my own, my own tastes and my own abilities, I really began to realize that if I really wanted to bring this to market, the Kickstarter or anything like that, it needed a lot more skill than I had. It's really a much heavier game than, as a designer, I would like to make. Saints and Scoundrels is a very light casual game. 30 minutes, it's great, and I love that. Battle Cats is a lot heavier. It usually takes about an hour. A lot of deck building mechanics that I think are very, very interesting. But for it to be really brought to market, it really needs asymmetric factions, stuff like that. Something that the way I wanted to build it, I don't think people will look at the mechanic and say, well, that's not quite a match. And it just didn't feel right. So luckily, I caught the ear of Jonathan Gilmore. And he, a real nice guy. And I pitched to him when he was working for Pandasaurus, and the Pandasaurus people passed on it. But he said, he took some interest in it. So he and I started working together to try to develop this a bit more and see how people would be interested in that. But we haven't done much through the pandemic. But once we start playtesting, I got some, we both have some ideas. I think once we start able to live playtest this thing, I think it'll start to take off. But there was a game before that called Villainopolis, which was just awful. So your first game, you start to experiment with game mechanics, and then things, you start to see how things work and what doesn't work. The problem with that is the game just never ended. I like to say the problem with that game is I could never figure out how to make a person lose and still have fun. I can make a game where someone wins and the person who wins has a blast. The real trick is to make a game where the people who lose have fun.
Right.
They want to play again. I think that comes out with Saints and Scoundrels. It's such a short game. You lose let's play again. But at some point, the most terrible thing to happen in the game, I think, is you're halfway through, you still have half an hour to play, and you realize you're going to lose. And that's a terrible feeling. And I think I tried to avoid that with Villainopolis, but then you just keeps on going and going and going. And when you need a mechanic to kick in to begin the end game.
Yeah.
But when it kicked in, everyone knew who was going to win, who was going to lose, and you still had half an hour game left. And so it's just okay, this game isn't working. It's a learning experience. I enjoyed the learning experience, and then use what I learned to for my other games.
Yeah,
I had a learning experience with you, Gary, when I brought the Postman.
I remember that. Yeah,
and you were the only person to play test it because it had a extraordinarily glaring flaw that I had not noticed. And we set it up, and this always endears me when I think of you, because I was so extraordinarily embarrassed. And we set it up, and I'm like, this is how you play, and you're super interested, and we're talking, and then I'm like, oh my God, never mind. I just realized this. There should be 27 variations. And there is 96. Let's just scoop it. Thanks, Gary. I'm putting this away.
I remember that. That was our unpub day at the Rook. And I was probably drinking coffee beer at the time. It's early in the morning Sunday, and I sat down to play, and then we start looking, and it's okay, that's interesting game. Have you thought of this?
You were very supportive,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. And I put it back in because I had it in a mailbag. And I put it back in the mailbag, put it inside of a cubby, and I got it out 2 years later.
Okay.
Like that's how ashamed I was, and how thankful I am for you being so gracious and just being like, "What was that? You didn't do that." You were like, "No, that seems a pretty good idea. You know, you could tweak something." And I'm like, "This is math," and I just bombed it.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was an interesting theme, and the general mechanics that work, and then then you start to drill down in the details. But that's how first prototypes go. They just kind of collapse. I think you just kind of have to expect that. And after the first 2 or 3 play tests, you either realize you need to abandon it or there's something there. But it's still a learning experience. There's plenty of prototypes in my little cubby hole over here that just never made it. They're in pieces and they look good at first, and you start to play it and like, something's not quite working here.
And I did have another game that day that I that prototyped a lot better that I kept working on, and I have almost a completed prototype of it, but I'm not. Maybe maybe I'll come out to the playtest group again someday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
Sorry. I don't know if we're going to pick up my children stomping overhead. My 3-year-old turns 4 tomorrow, so very excited.
Congrats! Yeah, my family's upstairs. They're keeping quiet though. I think they're tired.
Yeah, throw a text.
So you're still working on Battle Cats with Jonathan then?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still working on Battle Cats. It's nice to have his. He just has a different instinct about some this stuff, and trying to learn from him as much as possible. As I said, it's just a bit admittedly beyond my skills as a new designer. It's not really my type of game. But I think, bringing it to the test group and bringing it to Unpub, everyone seems to see this is a really interesting mechanic. Mm-hmm. It's a really fun mechanic, and if I were to finish it the way I like it, it wouldn't quite. The market wouldn't. I don't think it would like it. The way Jonathan wants to put it, I think it's a much better direction for it to go. I've been also.
Go ahead.
I've been working on a Meeple rolling game also.
Meeple rolling game?
Meeple rolling, yeah.
Okay.
Like ever play Pass the Pig? You roll and you see what stands up. And so the way this came about was I write for Meeple Mountain, and there was an article where we compared Tabletop Simulator and Tabletopia, and we're trying to figure out, what should we? It was going to be a series of articles. What should we call it? Should we call it Versus? Should we call it, Knockout or something like that? And so I just started throwing out ideas about what we should call the series of head-to-head comparison articles. And I threw out Meeple Combat, as in Mortal Kombat, with a K.
Yep.
And for some reason that name stuck, and I sort of started thinking, okay, what would a game called Meeple Combat look like? And so, well, it would involve meeples. And what would you do to the meeples? Well, maybe you'd roll them. So I rolled a meeple and said, oh, that's interesting. And so basically it's a meeple rolling game. And I tried to make it as it's a 2-player, trying to make it as like a meeple rolling version of the fighting game where one person has one character, the other person has another character, and you fiercely try to roll meeples.
Yeah.
You have 4 meeples in your hand, and you try to make combos with them, and you try to affect the other player. My 7-year-old and my 11-year-old have a blast with it. Just the idea of rolling meeples, and it's like 3 minutes of just frantic meeple rolling. So I think it still needs some development. I'd love to play it with the gang over at our design group, but it's unfortunate that it's not something you could put on Tabletop Simulator, or Tabletopia, just because it's the meeple rolling. It has to be done with real life meeples in order for it to work.
Yeah, I mean, we've been playing some Wingspan. TTS, Tabletop Simulator, and the most annoying thing in there is just rolling the dice.
Yeah.
Like the physical action not being there and not being able to just keep them where you want them, they bounce around. So like if you can't even do that, then how in the world would you play
Yeah.
a Meeple rolling game? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That, that,
Exactly.
that sounds frustrating. Have you played Meeple Circus?
No, but I've seen it, and they have some interesting. Having worked with a Meeple rolling game, they've made some interesting things. Like this is the one with a Meeple rolling tower, right? Is that it?
You're just. I think. Sorry, I've played a couple of different ones. I think Meeple Circus is just where you're trying to build things.
Oh, okay.
Um, you have
Maybe I haven't seen it. I'm getting confused with something else.
now I'm second guessing myself. but like you have to get them in certain shapes and
Yeah.
keep them in that shape to get the points.
Uh-huh.
That's what made me think of it. It is like, okay, if you're fighting one another, then maybe you get certain points if you knock theirs over and your Meeple ends up in a certain, configuration. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that.
I'll definitely peep it, Gary.
Oh, awesome.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Battle Cats 2.
Yeah.
Or 1.2 or whatever, wherever we're at. I'm
sure.
So, well, going back to that, working with Jonathan, and the reason I asked if you were still working on it is I hate Dead of Winter. That's a personal preference. I had to look up what he'd done, but Dinosaur Island is in my top 10. And
okay.
So that got me thinking, like, how does a designer like that kind of, because he's definitely focused on some different things throughout his career. How does he? What are some questions he asks you, or how does he draw better design out of you? I mean, obviously, those two games have sold. At the time, Dinosaur Island was one of the biggest Kickstarters for, if not the biggest Kickstarter for worker placement.
Yeah.
And then Dead of Winter definitely got cooperative games going in a different way a few years ago. So, how has he helped you?
He's done. So, we talked a few times, and he gives a general vision of where he thinks the game needs to go, and then he allows me to kind of fill in the spots of how to get there, which is a great way to do something. To approach that and still make he could go, if he took the whole design and went to the corner somewhere and came back 6 months with a workable prototype, I'd be happy. But he's really generous in allowing me to give my input into this. And he honestly wants my opinion, and he knows that I've been playing with this thing for 2 or 3 more years than he has. So he asked me, we want to do this. Do you think that'll work? And I said, well, I think we're going to run into this is a problem, but it should work. If we do this, if you do X and Y and Z. So it's very much a collaborative process. But he definitely has a much better vision, and he has a lot of when before the pandemic, he had a playtest group that met every week, and so he could iterate much quicker than I can over here. You're meeting on a monthly basis, and he can try stuff out. And I think he's just more used to what kind of especially from the point of view of components. My game had some game mats that came along with it. He says, I think we need to do away with that if we want to meet this market. I think we can, the audience will be fine without it. And I'm thinking, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Just the way I was playtesting it, I think I wasn't playtesting with medium weight gamers. I was playtesting with lightweight casual gamers, and it suited them better. But so he brings them the marketing perspective, definitely the experience. And he really tries to bring me as a designer into the equation also, which I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, cool. So you're working on your. Are you calling it Meeple Combat, or is that
Meeple Combat? We're calling it Meeple Combat for now.
Meeple.
That's the official name on my Windows file folder. When I put all the files in my Meeple Combat.
And you got Battle Cats. Or do you have other games you're working on now too?
No, nothing serious right now. You'll as a designer, I've always have ideas. I've always wanted to make like a G.I. Joe dice building game.
Yeah.
I think that's a very much deeper project than this Meeple Combat. The Meeple Combat seems like 3 or 4 months of playtesting and it's ready to go. You put it up on GameCrafter and it's all good to go. Something like G.I. Joe, for what I want to do with it, it's going to take a year and a half to really develop it into what I want it to be.
That would be really interesting to actually do something with Cobras, where Cobras are more of like a bad guy in terms of a D&D world type.
Yeah.
So like, since you say a dice game, like first thing that came to mind is like, I don't know if this is the way you're going or not, but like, have you played Role Player?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, in that,
yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if Ryan is or not. You create your character by selecting dice and getting things and building up their character traits. But like doing a G.I. Joe like that, but then the first expansion to it is going up against the bad guys.
Yeah,
and like I've always been curious, going back as an adult and thinking about G.I. Joe and thinking about like what is Cobra exactly doing and how are they taking over the world? But and then so like making Cobra a bad guy that is more of this mythical bad guy that you have to go against in whatever way. Just thematically, that'd be really fun if your G.I. Joes are going against Cobra and you had more of a story to how they're going against Cobra.
I want it to be sort of campaign based. You have a set of cards. And then here is Cobra's plan. Now you've got to pick the right people. You got to pick the right characters and equipment, and to accomplish this mission. I think that needs to be part of it. If you're going to be G.I. Joe, there are certain things that you need.
Right.
That need to happen. You just can't use the characters. There are certain things that need to happen.
Yeah,
you got to pick the characters. You got to pick the equipment and stuff like that. And the bad guys will show up and they'll be doing. And your certain bad guys will show up. Who are your arch nemesis and stuff like that. So those are So you start to think of these elements that you want in there, and it's like, okay, how am I going to incorporate all of this and still have a game that makes sense and is efficient to play? But it's always fun to think about that stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
I think for licensing, instead of going for the action figures, it might just be cheaper to get the license for the movie.
Oh, really? Maybe The Rock will put his picture on there.
It's a Bruce Willis.
It wouldn't be called G.I. Joe, of course. It would be, there's. I was toying with a motion comic a long time ago and I called it Omega Force, and it was something about that my played with my RPG cousins, and it's just like military people, paramilitary people fighting the bad guys. So
I mean, if you did it right, a certain French publisher with an R name might pick you up.
Yeah,
they're Renegade. They're really into their licensed products this year. They're doing.
I was trying to get David Bryan, the author of the book The Postman, to
I think that's
license
good.
my board game because it's probably cheaper than the movie.
I am tempted to take Saints and Scoundrels over to Thomas Harris. I think that's the name of the guy who wrote Sons of the Lambs. Say, hey, look at this. You want to make a Sons of the Lambs board game. Here you are.
I go.
Gotta get those tie-ins, right?
Yeah.
So how old? You said you have 2 boys?
2 girls.
Oh, 2 girls. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
How old are they?
7 and 11.
Okay, I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. So very similar.
Fun age.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the time. Although homeschooling right now after a 3-day weekend. I don't know about you, but that made today longer.
Yeah.
Do you play a lot of games with the girls then?
So Annabelle is just the oldest, the 11-year-old is starting to get into it. She recently got the Harry Potter deck building game from Santa Claus over Christmas, and we have a great time playing that. It's the first time that we play Chutes and Ladders and Monopoly and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, we'll just get through this, okay. And then so we got this deck building game, and she loves it. She loves playing Hermione. She's a big Harry Potter fan. Mm-hmm. She loves playing Hermione, and I'll play. What did she play? Neville Longbottom, and my wife will play Harry Potter, and we have a good time. And she enjoys playing. I recently, last October, when I was running the Kickstarter for Scoundrels, mm-hmm. I brought her to CinCity Con, and it was her first 11 years old, her first convention, first game convention.
Yeah.
And so when she sees Daddy working on games, it's usually I'm at the kitchen table working on the computer, and that's her perception of what game people do. So I brought her to this convention, and wow, she just went kind of crazy. Like, all these people are doing all this stuff, and I brought it to the Dungeons and Dragons room, and I went to one table and I said, "Can you guys explain who your characters are and what you're doing right now?" And said, "Yeah, I'm a lizard man from this, and I'm trying to do this, and then I'm a wizard." And she was just so fascinated. The thing that got her, though, we ran into a professional cosplayer.
Okay.
The one who had she had emceed the cosplay contest in CinCity Con, and what caught my daughter's eye was she was dressed like Hermione Granger. and so my daughter put it pieced together. She says, "Wait a minute, you got paid to put on this cosplay contest?" He said, "Yeah, you're dressed as Hermione Granger. Someone paid you to come to this convention and dress like Hermione Granger, and you can make money off of that?" And the lady said, "Yes." And she just looked at me like, this is incredible. Why didn't you tell me about all this stuff? So she had a really great time, and I think we got a potential gamer here. She's fascinated by all this, this gaming stuff that's around, and other community in general.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
The best Harry Potter game to play for Harry Potter fans that me and my wife made up like 10 years ago is called the Harry Potter game. And this will be good for your daughters. You name a Harry Potter character. Everybody takes turns naming a Harry Potter character, and you cannot repeat the same character twice.
Yeah.
And this just goes on until somebody names the same person, or like Jeopardy time has to start,
Yeah.
Yeah. But, there's only like 500 characters. So you're just like, every now and then I'm like, Kingsley Shacklebolt.
Yeah.
That's a good game for the kids in the car. Or the adults.
Oh, absolutely.
I love Harry Potter too. We're a Harry Potter family. So
we've played a lot of that deck builder. I think the great thing about that deck builder is it's really well done. So you're teaching mechanics that are going to be used in other games, and because of the theme and the fact that the cards are well done, then like that's what got my son a couple of years ago when he was 10. We got him that one. That's what got him into more deck builders and stuff, because then he got how chaining can go when you chain your cards and so forth.
Awesome. I'm having a tough time not being the quarterback in the game, because I having worked on my own deck builder, and Star Realms is one of my favorite deck builders. Yeah. And I played other deck builders, and so I looked at you look at the starting characters, and you kind of said, "Oh, I see what this character is supposed to do. I see their strengths and their weaknesses." And then my daughter plays, and she says she wants to buy this spell, and I'm like, "Well, that doesn't really work for it. It doesn't advance your character any."
Right.
But so you might want to buy this other spell. No, I want to buy this spell. Okay. You buy that spell, and he's like, as much as I want the quarterback saying, "You have this strength, you should buy this. You should buy this spell, and your mom should buy that spell, and I'll buy this spell. And we'll win." But no, I want to buy the spell. Okay,
Yep. And so you've probably
don't be the quarterback, Gary. Yeah. What was that?
You've probably lost a couple then, right?
We came close, but
okay.
yeah, I'm just I make Neville Longbottom super aggressive.
Dad's carrying weight.
So did you finish the whole game? Did you beat Voldemort?
Oh, we've just played game 1.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm sure it gets much harder as we move along, doesn't it?
Yeah, no. If you flip the wrong villains, that game is
yeah.
punishing. And so like you'll probably have to. This is what I had to do. I made a self rule that I wouldn't look at my kids' cards when they play. They have to do their thing, and I can't look at them until the turn is over.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, just to get rid of that quarterback.
Yeah.
So important questions real fast. Gary, what house are you in Harry Potter?
I tell my kid I'm in Bear Claw. My house is Bear Claw. They serve pastries in the morning.
I like this stuff.
Yeah, and she always told me there's no such house. I said, "Oh yeah, it's in there. They just didn't talk about it much in the book." Yeah, I'm not sure. I should ask my daughter what she thinks what house I'm in.
I'm going to guess you're Ravenclaw. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
what your test brings back. Wait, what house are you, Ryan?
Your brother-in-law Christopher was watching the Hufflepuff theatrical play or something a couple of days ago. They made a play about Hufflepuff, and I informed them they made a movie about my house. It's called Harry Potter because obviously I'm Gryffindor.
Yeah, my brother-in-law is definitely Hufflepuff, but
he's Ravenclaw. His wife is Hufflepuff.
What do you? You guys can probably guess what I am based on the color of my sweatshirt here, my hoodie.
Ravenclaw, right?
No.
No, you're Hufflepuff?
No. I'm Slytherin.
Yeah.
Every time.
Anybody ever wanted to be Slytherin?
I'll explain it some other time, but yeah, I'm Slytherin. We're not all bad. We're not all bad.
Just misunderstood.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So you're playing Harry Potter. What are you playing? Anything else? Does your wife play? Do you play 2-player games with your wife?
My wife likes to play Ticket to Ride. Okay. My favorite game is probably King of Tokyo.
Okay, nice.
Mm-hmm. Something about I mean, as a designer and as a player, I just the game is just it's battle Yahtzee with giant monsters. I mean, you can't. That's just a great design angle, and you put it in front of a 9-year-old and you put it in front of a 90-year-old, and they just kind of get it, you know. And so much fun. Just the clacking dice, and people just they take the monsters out and they want to play with them. So yeah, so both the designer and the player, I think it's just a fantastic game.
Yeah, it's one of the few games that I have played. Like we finished like a 3-4 hour game, and then we need something, before everybody leaves, and it's like, well, you want to play King of Tokyo, King of New York, one of those two? Yeah, let's play that real quick. And like people who play heavy games will even play that game.
Yeah.
So, very easy to get on the table.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I could always, whoever, so we have another couple over for dinner, I could just bring that out, and 5 minutes, everyone's enjoying themselves. I also I've been playing Sentinels of the Multiverse on online. I have a buddy, a high school buddy in Taiwan, and this is a great way to just play a game with him. And yeah, we both enjoy playing Sentinels of the Multiverse. And if I'm by myself, I'll play the AI against the AI in Star Realms.
Mm-hmm.
So. Mm-hmm.
What's the best time to play with your buddy in Taiwan? Like, what's that time?
So the time difference is 12 hours. So, so I'm after I put the kids to bed, it's about 11 o'clock here, 11 o'clock at night here, and 7 o'clock in the morning there, just before he gets lunch. So we'll play for an hour.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I like to ask a loaded question. This is my new thing.
Sure.
Besides yourself, why is Mike Worth your favorite Cincinnati board game designer?
Because he's a fellow Air Force guy. I absolutely love his story behind Dwarven Smithy, especially when people have when new designers have a failed Kickstarter. I tell them Mike's story, and Mike's story is great. He had a Kickstarter. I think his goal was 20,000, and he didn't quite make it there. I'm not even sure if he got halfway. And he didn't quite get it, and so he kind of retooled, and shifted his what he's going, how the game and how he marketed the game, and then he halved his goal. He was prepared to put $10,000 of his own money there, so instead of a $20,000 goal, he set a $10,000 goal, and his Kickstarter ended up making $55,000. And then if I was talking to him and his I'd ask him, okay, and who put you over the top? Who funded you? And he pointed to me. So I'm the one who bought who pledged and put him into funded him. I was at the time my daughter was getting a bath, and so I just had a couple minutes to just check the status of his Kickstarter, and I noticed that he was like $26 away from his goal. And his goal, his game is like 33. So I'm here. Oh, I got to pledge. I got to be the person that puts him over the top. So I get on there. My daughter's screaming at me, "Daddy, I need help with something. I need help." I'm like, hold on a second, I'm busy. So I get on there and I punch it. I put in the pledge, and immediately the website says it's funded. And I contact Mike, and it's like, guess what? You just funded, and I'm the one who funded you. And then he went on to make another, $45,000, and it's just he's a great guy. I know he put a lot of work into Dwarven Smithy, and he didn't let that first failed Kickstarter get. He just sort of said, okay, that happened. Now here's what we need to do. And when I ran my own Kickstarter for Saints and Scoundrels, he's one of the people I always talk to. So, okay, what do you think of this? What did you do in this case? How did you do your pre-marketing? How did you do your stretch goals? What did you put on your Kickstarter page? And he's always been very helpful. And Dwarven Smithy is just a great game.
It is
to begin with, yeah. So
Kickstarter copy.
It's just he just has such a great story that goes along with his game, and he's just a nice guy.
I love Mike. I think you guys are all great. Mike, you and Mike both have warm places in my heart set aside for you guys.
Oh, thank you. You too, Ryan. It was a surprise to see. It was like I saw a Ryan, and then I was like, I wonder if this is the same Ryan that a couple years ago.
It's like, we're going to talk to Gary Chavez. And I'm like, I know Gary.
So, I mean, that's a good segue. What are some things that you value in gaming, Gary? We've been talking this season about the experience of gaming and how gaming is worthwhile on its own, and just exploring that with different people. So what are some things that you value in gaming?
Well, particularly among the design community, I really value how much we share the knowledge that we've acquired and are willing to put it out there, and not just share it when asked, but putting it in our blogs, making it in a way where people can access it easily. Other designers can access it, and making having these monthly meetings and always trying to reach out to the community. Oh, you're making a game. Hey, we meet every month. You should come and join us. You're always welcome. The community in general is just very friendly, very supportive. A lot of knowledge that is flowing very easily in there. And and it's doing that even when, in a sense, that we're competing with each other. We're someone could buy his game or my game, but we're all kind of. I think we kind of decided that, we're just going to do away with any kind of competition. We're just going to support each other. It's just easier. We'll have more fun doing it, and so it's just a great community, and I really value that that I was brought in to this community in a very friendly, very super supportive way, and I tried to do that. As people have treated me like that, I try to reach out to the others in the same way.
No, that's great. Especially, and I don't know what you guys have been paying attention to, and I'm not going to mention names, but I'm more bringing this up as a historical marker. Ironically, last week there's been a lot of there's just been junk, but it's kind of always been there in the board game community.
Mm-hmm.
There was an Italian designer who got in trouble from some of his passwords, and he didn't really understand why it was a problem. And then there's another designer who is well known for adding footnotes, and we'll leave it at that. But I think the idea of welcoming people in and bringing people in rather than creating barriers is a much better way to celebrate the gaming community than focusing on being right. And I think that's part of what people were upset with those two individuals with is that they were more concerned with their own sense of rightness than they were with making the community a bigger place. And I'm not trying to minimize the concerns that other people have, but I'm not the right person to solve any of those issues either. So what I'm trying to say is I appreciate your perspective on how people brought you in and how you want to bring others in. Do you have a particular example of how maybe a favorite experience related to that and the community of game designers? I know you've talked some tonight about the Rook and other times you've gotten together with game designers.
Well, I mean, we have there's another game community up in a game design group up in Indianapolis, and Carl Kletzky is a great guy. I interface with him a lot, and one of the things I did was he was holding a protospiel, and one of the things I did going up there, I attended his protospiel. I interviewed some of the game designers there. And I thought this was just a great way to share the knowledge that they had about what they've gone through in their games. And they were really happy to share their experiences. And I just sort of did it on a whim. Just sort of, I'm gonna go up there and then I'm gonna interview some of these designers. And it was either gonna. It was a good possibility that no one's gonna like, who are you? Why are you asking all these questions? But everyone was so super. Excited about it's like, let's talk games. I'll tell you about what I went through in my game, and so very willing to share their experiences and give. One of the questions I asked is, if you had one piece of advice for another designer who's a brand new designer, what would it be? And everyone was very, if they gave that advice very willingly. It's like, okay, here's what I learned through hard work, and I'm now giving it to you for free. And so it's just the community, no matter where I've gone, no matter what I've done, the community has always been leaned towards getting more information out, being more friendly. I've never had anyone say, I don't want to do this. This is, I don't want to share my knowledge. This person, if I share it, then someone's going to take my idea and, I had to put it all as work. No, it's been like, here's what I learned. And, hopefully you'll learn from it and, make your game too. So it's been a great community.
I think that there's a belief with a lot of people getting into game design that or any creative process that people are going to take their ideas. But once you go to those playtest groups, everybody knows that every single idea is just a ton more work. Nobody wants them, By all means, take my idea, produce it, and I'll be like, man, they stole that. They did a really good job. No, Like there's nothing's breaking the barrier, you know. And then that's why they share so freely, because you just get in there and you get caught up on stuff, you get the feedback, and it's a very communally uplifting environment. And it's ironic that a whole bunch of people who are designing, for the most part, competitive games aren't competing with each other, but instead, you know, congratulating each other and lifting each other up, which is the spirit of board games. Besides smack talk, you know, that's free.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's only one like really notorious example of somebody knowingly stealing a bunch of ideas, and that's in Ryan's favorite area, the train games. But
I don't know about this.
Yeah, you see that question pop up on the Facebook forums every once in a while. They said, I have a game with this theme and this mechanic. Now I just learned of a game that has the same theme, same mechanic. Should I be words like, you know, there's more to a game. There's hundreds of design decisions that you make, and that's your game. Your game is not your mechanic. Your game is not your theme. Your game is the hundreds of decisions that you make. And no one's ever going to make the same decisions. So I'm like, don't worry about it. Keep on going. If someone were, you know, I've been talking about this compound deck building idea for the past few years. If someone wants to take it and run with it, fantastic. If you could, I've run so many problems. If you find a way to make it work, you tell me. You know, there's so many ways that it could just completely bomb, and so it's so narrow of a way for it to work and work well. Seriously, if someone were to take it and like make it work another way, have gone a different direction than I have, I'd be very interested.
I think that's the thing, right? You could go out, buy that game, play it a few times, make the tweaks that you'd already been working on, and then you'd have the unique product. You'd be like, thank you for doing all that work.
Just nobody contact the author of The Postman and get a board game license. That's mine.
Yeah.
Save that for me. Will it be good? No.
Yeah, and inspirations can, you know, the Postman, you know, the inspirations can come from anywhere. I mean, Silence of the Lambs Saints and Scoundrels was inspired by Silence of the Lambs, and I've never seen anyone make a game like that. And it's so interesting to see where these inspirations come from. You know, the things that make your game unique just come. It's different for everyone. It just comes. It comes from your experience, your perspective, and you know what you like. And it's just so interesting how people can take the same, you know, this game mechanics. There aren't a lot of game mechanics, and there aren't a lot of themes. But it's so interesting how the people can take these things, you know, a lot of common things, and make something completely different out of them.
Yeah.
And I have never seen a game like The Postman, you know, that was like The Postman, like the movie. So that's one of the things I enjoyed about playing your game.
Originally, I was going to do Tin Cup, and then I was like, I'm going to stick with Kevin Costner, but no.
So where would you like to see tabletop gaming, board gaming go in the next couple of years, Gary?
So one of the things I've been really impressed with, it's been a huge surprise for me, has been online gaming community. You know, when the pandemic happened, I think prior to the pandemic happening, I think the idea of online board gaming was sort of like, oh, that's interesting. You know, of course, someone's going to do something like that. And no one really took it seriously. Then everyone was stuck at home, you know, and everyone wanted to play tests and still play games. And suddenly all these virtual online conventions started popping up. And there's huge communities of designers online. You can find them online anytime, and they're playtesting each other's games. And you know, with these online conventions, you have people attending who have never been able to attend a convention in person before. You know, attending a convention, you know, if you don't live in Cincinnati or Columbus, you know, or Indianapolis, like, you know, we do, it can get pretty expensive. You know, if you're off somewhere in, you know, Hawaii or Alaska or something like that, it's not an easy thing to get over here for GenCon.
Right.
Or Origins. And so having these, or any Porter Spiels around here. So having these things where anyone in the world can access them, and we can share knowledge that way. I think it's been a real eye opener for me, at least, to see that how how online gaming can bring us even closer together, can reach out to other people that we couldn't reach out to before. Mm-hmm. And I really hope going forward, even when, thankfully hopefully the pandemic will be over soon and we start to play games again and start to have conventions again. I really hope that there is a online component that continues with GenCon and Origins and Protospiels and everything. So I like the idea of making those things accessible to people who don't have access to an in-person con. Reaching out to more people, getting more people involved, getting more ideas on the table, building your network of people. I really hope that continues.
That's really cool way to think about it. I've never heard such a good sales pitch for the Midwest.
This is a great place to be. It's one of the things that brought me in. It's like, well, there's Origins over there. There's GenCon, and then we have our own CinCity Con and Protospiels, and it's just a very active community here. Very fortunate to be in this area, and I feel bad. I'll talk to someone on Facebook, and they have a great idea for a game, but they're somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and they just can't get to a convention. They don't have a local playtest group. Mm-hmm. And no game can be made in isolation. You can have a great idea, you can play test it all by yourself, but at some point you're going to need other people. That's just the nature of the hobby. And if you can't, online gaming is if you're isolated somewhere, is your only option. And so I'm hoping for people like that we continue to support the online gaming and online playtesting.
Yeah, I think that there's a market for companies to release online components of their games, and I think if there's a market for it, then they're going to do it, and hopefully that will be refined, and the experience will grow, and the software will get better, and then I can play Meeple Combat.
Yeah, yeah, sure. When they make VR even more accessible to everyone, I think that's when it'll start to even more take off even more. And I will put Meeple Combat on there, where you can actually roll and feel the dice rolling in your hand and everything.
Yeah. The tabletop simulator's physics engine it leaves a lot to desire right now.
Sure.
It's going to get there, and Meeple Combat's going to be on it. I'll be there. I'll be like the Goro.
Yeah, I really hope that continues. I've seen a lot of prior to Kickstarters, people will release their games on Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia, and it's a great marketing tool. That you go to an online convention and you present your game on Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia. And I've seen bigger companies do that. Not everyone, but bigger companies could release their games on there for people to try out. And it's a great way to try it out. It's a one step away from a print and play, and you don't have to have a lot of time, printing stuff out. But I hope that big publishers, start to see the marketing value.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ryan and I played Darwin's Journey last week, which is getting a lot of buzz. We had a really great time with that one. We're going to play again. I tried on the flip side, and this is interesting. I tried out not Rockefeller, but the other one, Carnegi last night. Because I was waiting on Ryan, and then he couldn't make it. Tried out Carnegi, and I didn't like it at all. So, there's the experience of, I really want to have a physical copy of Darwin's Journey, but I guess it is a good thing for marketing, because at least Carnegi, I'm not going to walk away and never try it again. I can try it again on Board Game Arena now for free and then if I do like it, I will be drawn in. Well, if I had played it at a con, I would probably never go back and try it again. It probably is better to market the games that way.
Sure. Yeah. I think there are pros and cons. I think I think the risk is worth the reward. I'll show Saints and Scoundrels, at online conventions. I usually get one sale for every time I demo it, and I think the online experience is not perfect and will never replace in person, but I think you can translate it into there's enough there to get a sense of what it would be in real life.
Yeah.
Enough to make you decide if you want to buy the game or not. And as an indie designer, I would much rather someone try my game and say, this isn't for me, than to buy my game and not play it. I'm not in this to make a lot of money, but yeah, if someone, I want a person to be sure they enjoy the game. So if that's what they need to, if they need to play it online first to make sure, then that's fine with me. And if someone wants to try it 2 or 3 more times, then they got to find 2 or 3 more people to play it with, and so he's marketing my game for me. That's the way I see it. So I think I think there's a lot of potential there, and I hope publishers see that and other indie designers see that too.
Yeah, cool. Anything else? Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just agreeing vocally.
Is there anything else you want to add or talk about before we wrap up tonight?
No, I'm excited to see. Are you guys still at Fireside? Or you're on hiatus? Or
we're on hiatus right now. I think once the level of the pandemic level dies down and people start to get vaccinated, I'm going to be getting my vaccine soon. As someone who works on base, right, Pat? We have a slightly higher priority than average. So I would like to start. I'd like to start playing again, but it'll depend on other people. But I'm always open to, I tell the group, if you would put it on Tabletop Simulator and test it out, I'm all for that too.
And you guys are still pretty active on the old Facebook, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'll make Christopher screenshot me updates. I don't use Facebook anymore. I'm not on social networking. I'm an old man.
Do you have any?
I really enjoyed Unpub at Origins, and I also enjoyed playing other people's games, and that was a lot of fun when I was participating in it. Mm-hmm. So I look forward to hearing when the world is a little bit better for it. To have Christopher join your guys' group and then let me know so I can show up and play some games, because it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. So
everyone's we have a pretty active group. Once the pandemic is over, I'm sure they'll be active again. But the people there with some great games, and they're looking for publishers, and some great games recently have been made in that group, and I really hopefully they'll keep moving forward with those. And I'll bring Meeple Combat along too.
Yeah, you know what's up.
What's your website, Gary?
Your website is www.gcrocketscience.com. All one word, GC Rocket Science. My Saints and Scoundrels game is up for sale at the Game Crafter. I think it's $28.99 at the Game Crafter for the basic edition. I can give you a little bit cheaper if you buy it from me in person. I have a few copies.
Cool.
I have a few copies here. But yeah, that's my website, and I'm also writing on Meeple Mountain. Have a rulebook writing article coming up soon. Ooh. I also have I interviewed Brenna Noonan from Quillsilver Studios recently.
Okay.
She's fantastic. She offers like the one-stop shop for if you're a game designer and you want to know if you need help designing or marketing your game at any point during your game. She can help you. She can help you with whatever. She's got a crack team there that can help you with art, marketing, development, you name it. So that'll be coming up soon. So I'll let everyone know. I always post my new articles anyway when onto the CinCity game design group.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Chris. Thanks for the opportunity, and nice seeing you too again, Ryan. Hope to see you again soon.
Man.
Thanks. And I'll maybe catch a game of Saints and Scoundrels Saturday in between my games.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So, cool. Thanks.
Thank you.